Okay, Leanne, Caron, thank you so much for joining me.
Always a pleasure and exciting times ahead.
Yes, I was debating should we pretend I don't know why we're here? But that seemed disingenuous given some of the prep work I've been doing to release the video. So, um, you are running for
And you
mayor.
did
That's
ask me on our last interview, you did kind of ask me a question and I kind of evaded it. So
yes, yes, yes. So you are running for mayor.
that is correct. Yes. Yes.
Okay, so then the obvious question is why would you want to be mayor of Guelph?
Well, a lot of people have asked me that question when I was contemplating it, and it's taken me quite a while to come to the conclusion that that's the next step because I didn't run for councillor with this as a destination. I had a very fulfilling career, still do, but complex municipal issues have changed the face of leadership and how cities operate and the kind of leadership we need at the city and the relationships that we develop in the community. I've also had some really great conversations with our current mayor, and Cam's been very, open about the challenges. And we had breakfast last week, and he gave me some great advice. And I do feel like it's time for a shift in leadership at the city. It is, we need to be constantly nurturing leadership. It's time for Ward 5 to have new leadership. And it's time for the city to see a new face and develop some new relationships and take some different directions.
I was going to ask about that because you've been kind of the face of Ward 5, and you and Kathy certainly in the last, 8 years. Kathy did take a break between stints on council. Um, I'm curious though. I think you've been reelected 4 times. I think it's safe to say your constituents like you a lot. They keep sending you back. Um, how do you intend though to sort of introduce yourself? There is a big broader Guelph community beyond Ward 5. You've done very well for yourself in Ward 5, but there is a whole big city called Guelph that may not know you as well.
Yeah, and thank you for recognizing that because I've been honored to represent Ward 5. It's a very diverse ward, and people think, oh, well, it's a university ward, so it's a very homogenous demographic, and that's not true at all. We have a lot of high density housing. We have a lot of commercial and businesses. Ward 5 has changed over the years, so we've gone from having a portion of downtown right up until the railroad tracks. And now we've moved as far south as Arkle Road. So we've shifted, and I've shifted with that ward as well. I grew up just outside of Arkle, so certainly the South End Ward 6 area is somewhere I'm very familiar with and all the changes there. And I live near downtown and actually live in Ward 3 because the ward has changed with boundaries. And so the downtown issues are very familiar and I'm very embedded in that community. I'm also part of a lot of neighborhood growth discussions, community groups. And so I've been out and about in the city for a long time outside of Ward 5. I think the most important thing for a mayor is that we have global issues that permeate throughout the city. And I've spent the last couple of months as I've been contemplating this decision, doing a lot of listening and listening outside of Ward 5 and outreach at events and in communities where I'm doing that listening and learning process. And I'm hearing some universal issues that are rising to the top, and that is going to guide my campaign as mayor, and it'll also guide my term as mayor if I'm so fortunate to be elected.
Okay, you open the door. What are some of the universal issues you've been hearing about?
Well, I could probably distill it to the top three, and I think it won't come as any surprise to you, Adam, because you are do a lot of outreach and you talk to a lot of leaders in the community as well, including council. Number one is affordability, and that is in every ward, in every demographic, from seniors to students. And so that's something that I'm taking very seriously as the number one issue. And I have some ideas. I have a three-part plan on how I'm going to tackle that. It's a little too early to be unveiling the platform in this interview, but it's something I've been doing a lot of best practice reviews, looking at other municipalities, uh, getting the stats and data, and listening to people's challenges. And there's several complex layers of affordability that we'll deal with in the platform.
Hmm.
Number two, housing. That again won't come as any surprise. Getting those housing starts, getting the shovels in the ground. affordable housing, social housing, and market housing. It's all part of the continuum of housing that we have to address if we're going to make any headway in ensuring that everyone has a place to live in Guelph. And then the third is climate action. That's a big one for me. It permeates the other two because utility bills and energy security and resilience from stormwater and weather and temperature and harsh winters, our operations budget, just snow clearing and everything from, urban forests to becoming resilient for hotter and summers.
Yeah.
So that is all part of affordability. And it's all part of housing, and it's all part of city building, and it's all part of quality of life and parks, and they're all interrelated. So I see those three issues as the big ones that we're going to tackle in the next term, and we have to get it right. This is a long game. I have no desire to be Hazel McCallion. I do think that the top position as mayor has a shelf life. One term would be an honor. Two terms max. I do think there's a term limit because I think we need to build new leadership. And I think that those three issues are both short-term issues. And if we get it right in the next 4 years, the payoff is going to be long-term, like in a 20, 25-year horizon. So we have to get it right, and we have to get it right in the next 4 years.
Very true. And the next question that comes to mind, I guess, is affordability, housing, climate action. Those are not things that can be handled out of City Hall as a silo. We have a provincial government that seems somewhat reticent to taking the kind of actions, not just Guelph, but other municipalities want. We have a federal government that seems to be very focused on uh, big picture, global trade, uh, economy stuff, not necessarily like mom and pop, like Guelph needs a new railroad or something. Um, how do you intend to sort of raise these issues that you want to tackle with upper levels of government that are fighting their own battles, fighting their own fires? Is that how have you thought about that so far?
Well, I'm not going to pretend that that's not an issue. And again, have conversations with the mayor just last week about the layers of decision making and how they're making the job of mayor harder and harder and harder. And certainly in the last 12 years, Cam's job has gotten much harder, and that's not going to change anytime soon. So there's a lot of things we can do. I mean, we have our portfolio of things that we can make more efficient locally. We have a portfolio of things where we can raise additional revenue by bringing in more business. Business comes to cities that invest in themselves. We can absolutely in economic development start to chart our own course. But advocacy. So working with other mayors across, I mean, Cam is a leader in big city mayors, working with the province, working with the feds. We have amazing representation. Our MPP and our MP are true champions for our city, and I think they play a role in bringing our voice to upper levels of government. We've been very fortunate to get a lot of grant money from both levels for major initiatives that save local tax dollars for those capital projects. We will continue that advocacy. We will grow that advocacy. But we also have to, we have to stand up for things we know are fundamentally wrong. So the funding formula is wrong. Property tax regimen is a regressive form of taxation. So we need to advocate for that. We need to advocate for an increase in the heads and beds levy, which could yield millions of dollars if we work together with other university cities and advocate for an increase in that levy. So there are things we can be doing, and I certainly will be championing those things to bring down the burden on property taxes.
There was a reaction I noted from people online and offline when Cam announced he was not going to seek re-election, and the question people asked me even was like, who on city council could run for mayor? And I think there's a feeling in the community that leadership sort of starts within the council chambers. At least, if you want somebody who has been mayor, who's also been in, I guess, quote unquote, the pits of council. um, you've been in council chambers for 20 years. Uh, I can imagine, though, at the same time, a lot of people see that longevity. I will call it longevity and say, well, maybe what we need is real new blood, someone who has not been part of the political machine in any way, or someone who has not been a decision maker in any way who finally gets a say. So, from your point of view, what is it about the lessons learned as a city councilor that can be best applied to being mayor? Why is that a good practice to step up to the center chair?
Oh, well, that's a really great question because it comes from how you nurture leadership from within an organization. And a mayor is really just the chair of a board, the board of directors of a corporation. And you nurture leadership from within that board. And then you choose your chair from within that leadership development. So it's really, really difficult for anyone to come inside to the role of a mayor and develop. I mean, there's key things that a mayor has to be able to do: understand the regulatory environment and the bylaws of the city. That is a 1 year process at the very least. Number two, developing relationships with staff inside City Hall to get things done and within the community to get things done, because that collaboration is absolutely essential to moving projects forward in the city. And I think the third thing is just a proven track record. I'm really proud of my track record as a city councilor and as an Upper Grand trustee before that. I think I've shown in my ward that I'm very considerate of input, that I do the outreach, I do town halls, I do newsletters, I listen to what people have to say. So I've got some cred, if that makes sense, that that I'm not coming in on an ideological platform. I'm a representative of the community, and I think those things are essential to the role of mayor. And to my earlier comment, I think it's important that a mayor respect that board of directors, that the 12 people on council, or in the future, if it's 8 or 10, that board of directors is really where the power is.
Hmm.
So you have to bring that board and you have to act as a cohesive team. And the one thing I've heard in this listening phase from people is they really want council to work together as a team. They don't want power structures. They don't want ward conflict. They want everyone to have a common vision and then, you know what, roll up the sleeves and start working towards that division.
All right, well
Sorry,
then,
not that division, but work towards ending that division.
I knew where you were going. Um,
Yeah.
but to that end, I've certainly had my criticisms for the way Cam has handled some procedural things in his mayoralty. So, in terms of like looking to what you would do, I mean, not like on a specific issue, but like how you would manage things, how you would bring together. You've talked a lot in this interview even about fostering leadership. What does that look like when you take the gavel, if you take the gavel in November?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the first thing is getting everyone in the room and putting it all out there. What are your visions and dreams for the city, and where can we find that common ground? The one thing I learned when I was doing my MA leadership was, the best leaders are the ones that are followers, and that you're listening and you're learning and you're willing to alter your opinion. You're not so focused on get your way or the highway or structural power as you are about collaborative power. And that's the approach that I'll be taking, is that everyone who's elected was elected by their constituents for a reason, that they're bringing something to the table, whether it's a vision, an idea, or a set of skills. They were elected, and that has to be respected as part of the governance framework that we operate under as a city.
Hmm. In terms of, doling out positions, though, and I mean, part of the thing we haven't talked about yet is strong mayor powers, because I think somebody observed this at Breezy Breakfast when Cam was there, talking about his tenure a couple of weeks ago was like last time there was a mayoral election, there was no such thing as strong mayor powers, or at least in Guelph. I think they had been announced for Toronto and Ottawa at that point, but this is a choice, an election where the city is electing a strong mayor. And Cam Guthrie, to his credit, has said like there are some powers in there that I do not want to have, and I will continue to let staff delegate. But in terms of where you come from and I guess how strong a mayor will you be if you end
Well,
up being mayor?
it depends on what your definition of strong and strength
Right.
is. I think strength is caring. I think strength is listening. I think strength comes from collaboration. I think strength comes from a position where you can bring people together. It's not a positional authority based on your title. So when it comes to strong mayor powers, things like land use planning, I think there's no place for strong mayor powers in land use planning. We need to be able to hear expert advice from our planning staff, and if a mayor uses strong mayor powers, we don't get to hear that information from our staff. So I think land use planning is absolutely not for me. The legislation, as you know, requires that the mayor table the budget.
Right.
That we don't have a choice. A mayor doesn't have a choice. But I think the language that you use and how you get there is redefines strength. So our current mayor, he refers to it as the mayor's budget.
Mm,
That's a language choice. I don't think we have to call it that. There's nothing in the legislation that says you have to call it the mayor's budget. I can call it council budget. I can call it the people's budget. And if you do all your pre-consult before you table the budget, and it reflects that conversation, it reflects that community outreach and what you hear in those conversations, then it is truly the people's budget and not the mayor's budget.
mm, interesting. Another thing I want to note about Cam, and I think this is to his credit, he's been very, very open on social media, whether that's about like issues like here's what I'm thinking, or, here I am at a garage sale or record store day. That's a bit of slice of life on Cam's Twitter feed. I think it's kind of set an example, which is like,
Yes. Yep.
our mayor is kind of open and available, and I think people have been disappointed whenever he's like locked down and said like, no, we're not going to be commenting on something on this special issue or post or whatnot. So in terms of putting your own stamp on mayoral communications, and I mean not just mayoral communications, but campaign communications and outreach, it's a tough crowd. It's a crowd with many different faucets into it. How are you going to approach outreach as you start campaigning?
It is a tough crowd, and I'm reminded of there's a scene in Parks and Rec, if you've ever watched that show, where she's in the middle of a town hall and people are screaming and yelling at a town hall, and then in the hall at the back, her assistant says, "I don't know how you can listen to that," and the character says, "You hear yelling, I hear people caring loudly." That really resonated with me because, yeah, there's always going to be characters who are never happy with what you do, and I'm not everyone's cup of tea. Not everyone is going to support, my candidacy or my term as mayor, but they have a right to comment. They have a right to respectfully disagree. And honestly, Cam, I give credit where credit is due. Cam's good at it. Cam is very good at developing a relationship with going into a room and having conversations with people. And to his credit, it has really helped the role of the mayor, the position of mayor, to be seen as something that requires that kind of community relationship. So I absolutely think it's essential to the job, and plan to do. I wouldn't say that I'm going to be as good at social media as Cam. I'm not going to be at every garage sale. I go to the farmer's market. I do, but just being a real person. And I think
Mm.
to your earlier question, people in Ward 5 are used to seeing me out and about in the community. I hope during the campaign, people will see me as one of their neighbors, that I have skills that I bring to the job, and I have a history in the city. I've raised my children here, and that I bring something to the position. But I commend Cam for that. He's very good at it. And
Well, all I'll say is Leslie Knope didn't work at Parks and Rec during the age of Grok, but I digress.
you
But
knew who I was talking about. Yeah.
yeah,
Hail
yeah.
Leslie. Yeah.
Hail, Leslie. Maybe to wrap up, this is the announcement. Trying to draw the box here. Um, in terms of like what comes next, in terms of, or if people are watching this or listening to this and saying to themselves like, yeah, okay, now we have a mayoral candidate. Now I can inundate her with my thing. My loudly caring thing. What's the next steps, and how can people sort of get involved and reach out?
Thanks. Well, just as a matter of timeline, is that the official nomination period doesn't open until May 1st, so nothing's official until May 1st. I can't start campaigning till May 1st. I'm not allowed to spend any money or collect any money, so making sure I'm following all the rules. I'm here today because it's probably Guelph's worst kept secret that I'm thinking of running. So I thought it was important to, prior to filing the nomination papers, to put those rumors to rest. After nominations are open, at that point, I'll be putting out a lot more messaging. So I'll be more active. I will create my social media. I will be launching a website at a future date. Right now, I still have a survey live on my website, which is leannecaron.ca. And then so everything else is going to come out over the next couple of months. Really, the nominations close in August. Signs can't even go up. So you are not going to be seeing signs in the community. We can't put signs up until I think September
Mm.
14th, something like that. And then the election and advanced voting doesn't start until end of September. The election date is Monday, October 26th. So there's a long timeline between next Friday filing the papers and actually marking your ballot. So lots more to come. Stay
Yes,
tuned.
there is. These are like the longest elections in Canada. Um,
Mhm.
One thing I'll say about the rumor mill, Leanne, is people were telling me last summer. I don't know how long this has been simmering in you, but people were telling me last summer you were going to run.
I've been thinking about it probably since then, but
Okay.
there's a lot of outreach and thinking, and I needed to make sure that my kids were okay with it and my had family support. So there's a lot that goes into making that final decision, and
Okay.
uh, and here we are.
All right.
Here we are.
I'm just sometimes these things get away from you, whether you intend them to or not. But
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
thank you for coming on here and talking about it, Leanne. It's gonna, like we said, it's gonna be a long campaign. We will have many more conversations from here till then. But for now, I'll just say good luck, and we will see you on the campaign trail, if not in the council chambers before that, because you still have well, not your day job, but your night job. Uh,
I'll be taking a leave from my day job to full-time campaign at a later date. But I'll see you there because I think you've been covering council and local politics for as long as I've been at the Horseshoe. So thank you for everything you do as well.
at least it feels like it anyway. But thank you, Leanne. We'll see you out there.